Recording has started.
Thank you. Thank you. So good morning, all. My name is Wayne Benjamin. I am the chief of DASNY's Job Order Contracting Program, and I'd like to welcome you to this pre-bid meeting for about a dozen term contracts for our Job Order Contracting Program. For this meeting, I am joined by Michael Clay, who is the Senior Director at DASNY in charge of both procurement and the Opportunity Programs Group, and by Janelle DePonceau with the Gordian Group, which has been and is DASNY's consultant for our JOC program for over 20 years. Let me share my screen so we can begin. So we're going to basically give you an overview of our job order contracting program and take you through some key considerations. There are MWBE and SDVOB participation goals that apply, and Michael Clay will talk to you about that, as well as give you an overview of DASNY's capital management program and how that may pertain to you. At the end of the pre-bid meeting, we'll have time allocated for Q&A, but throughout the session, we will stop at certain points in order to capture whatever questions that you have. During the pre-bid meeting, please use the chat function to record your questions, and as we get to the stages of the pre-bid where we're stopping in order to answer them, we will read through the questions that are available at the time and address them. This pre-bid meeting is being recorded. At the end of the meeting, a link to the recording, as well as a copy of the PowerPoint presentation that we are sharing with you, will be posted to the website. It will be an additional attachment to the documents that are currently posted to the website. So just to give you a quick background on DASNY, DASNY is, one of the nation's largest issuers of tax-exempt debt, and we're also one of the largest public builders. We finance and construct facilities for colleges and universities, the state university system being one of our first clients, and the city university system being, our current largest client. As I mentioned just a minute or so ago, we've run a job order contracting program for, over 20 years at this juncture. And job order contracting is a unit price-based procurement delivery system, and it's designed to give us a faster delivery time. For DASNY's job order contracting program, we divided the state of New York into, 10 regions, and our projects typically involve some type of, renovation, repair, emergency or exploratory work. It can be a range of things, and we'll get into that later. For DASNY's JOC program, we issue term contracts, and those term contracts have a 1-year base term, and then there are 3 one-year renewal options. So potentially, when we award a contract to you, there is a 4-year relationship. At this time, we cannot identify any specific location or project other than the region for which the contract is being awarded, and we can't identify the specific quantities of tasks. Job order contracting, we are awarding a trade contract for a certain dollar amount for a year, and in the course of that year, as our clients' needs arise, we will then award project-specific job orders and draw down on that term contract. The JOC program uses a catalog of fixed unit prices, which is developed specifically for DASNY by the Gordian Group, and those unit prices include labor and material costs. They do not include overhead and profit, and that's actually what you will be bidding on. The catalog, as I mentioned, is customized for DASNY, and we update the catalog every year. So each August, you will get a new catalog. So you're not working with pricing that is, more than a year old. We make sure that we capture any updated prevailing wage rates, any updated collective bargaining, and also whatever is happening in the market in terms of the cost of labor and material is captured as we update those construction task catalogs. To be a prime contractor in DASNY's JOC program, you have to be bondable. And if you refer to DASNY's website, there's a lot more information on what the bonding requirements are. On average, we've executed $52 million or so per year through our JOC program. The average size of a project procured through JOC, we say, is approximately 150,000. But averages are a little deceptive because the reality is we can do projects that are only a few $1,000s, and we can also do projects that are well over $1 million. So that 150,000, take it with a grain of salt. It really depends upon the trade. In abatement, for example, the awards may be smaller, and in HVAC or GC, the awards may be larger. The trades that we typically bid are GC, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, abatement, and in some instances, we will also bid roofing, facade repair, and restoration or sprinkler. And in this contract solicitation, we are in fact bidding a contract for roofing and a contract for facade repair and restoration. What we are looking for in JOC contractors is not someone who is necessarily an expert in the software that the Gordian Group has developed for us, or in the use of the construction task catalogs. That training can be provided to you and is provided to any contractor that's awarded a contract under a program free of charge. And the Gordian Group will give you sort of customized in-person training as frequently as you need it so that you are comfortable using the system. What we do need from folks bidding on our contracts is for them to be experts in their trade and have the capacity to manage multiple projects simultaneously. As I mentioned, we are awarding, term contracts for a year. At this juncture, we don't know how many projects will be awarded or when. So it's entirely possible that in the space of a month, we might have 2 or more projects that we have to award to you to get done. Some of them will have overlapping time. So you have to be able to deal with more than one project at a time, and you've got to be expert in your trade. I'm going to now hand the floor over to Janelle to talk a bit more about the job order contracting program, something that Gordian has been involved with for several decades. Janelle?
Morning, everyone, and thank you, Wayne. Job order contracting was introduced over 37 years ago in 1985, and to date, over 1,100 job order contracts are in use nationwide. Job order contracting is faster than traditional methods, provides for better quality, can be less expensive, and can provide for greater cost control. Over $2 billion worth of construction is placed annually nationwide by JOC contracts. Several local agencies have used the JOC program for even 20 years. SUCF, DOT, OGS, Department of Education in New York City. Wayne, you could turn the page. So DASNY's divided the New York State into 10 regions. Those regions are designated by the counties, and you can find all of that at DASNY's website. And this map and all the counties listed will be provided in the contract documents. Downstate, we're bidding 5 contracts. The PLA applies to the Region 1 contracts only. So there's abatement, facade repair and restoration, a roofing contract, a plumbing contract, and an electrical contract. The maximum value per term is described in the contract documents per term. The upstate and western solicitation includes numerous contracts, 3 electrical for various regions, 1 HVAC, and 3 general construction contracts in the 3 different regions.
And let me just say a few points about the current solicitations. For the facade repair and restoration contract, which basically is in New York City, it's for local law 11 work. Firms that are interested in bidding on this, please make sure that you have the appropriate insurance coverage to do exterior facade work. There are some insurance policies for general contractors that prohibit you from doing exterior work above the third floor. As you know, Local Law 11 doesn't kick in until you have a building that is, I believe, 5 or 6 stories. So certainly you're going to be doing work above the third floor. Many of the buildings that we do work for at CUNY might be, 6 stories or more. So please make sure that you have the appropriate insurance and that when you are giving us your bid factor, which includes your overhead and profit, and that would also mean includes the cost of your insurance, that you've considered and incorporated the cost of the insurance that is required to do exterior facade work without limitation based upon the height. In terms of roofing, we are looking for firms that have expertise doing roof work, self-performing roof work. We're not really looking for a GC who every time we award or have to award a roof repair project has to go and find a roofing subcontractor, which is not to say that if you are a GC and you are bidding on this, you cannot, for example, joint venture with a roofing contractor. But we want to make sure that we are contracting with an entity or with a team that has the experience and qualifications to do the roofing work. In many instances, we have emergency repairs. The client needs us to get on site, right away to do the work, and that is an inopportune time for you to have to go and find someone to do the roofing work. As we get later into the presentation, Michael Clay will speak to you about the MWBE participation. If you are a GC and you do some roofing work, but you need more expertise, one way of making sure that you satisfy the MWBE goals might in fact be to partner with an MWBE roofing contractor and for you to come in together. And another consideration, DASNY does not have the ability to say that if you have an active JOC contract, do not bid on another contract. But we want you to be mindful that if you have an active contract with our JOC program and you have 12 or more months left on that contract, and as I mentioned, we award a 1-year contract with 3 1-year renewal options. So that's potentially a 4-year relationship. Consider really carefully your ability to take on additional contract responsibilities. The job order contracting program is really performance-based. So if you're doing well, DASNY will continue to award additional work to you. If there are issues with performance, if it's slow, if there's non-responsiveness, we do not have to continue to award additional work. We can just either rebid the contract or go to another contract if we have more than one. So if you already have a contract and you've got a year or more, taking on another contract means you're telling us that you have the manpower, that you have the finances, that you have the back office infrastructure to do any job that we are going to award to you, and you're not going to say that you can't get to a project awarded under contract A because you're busy with a contract awarded under contract B. So just really consider your ability to service the contracts that you are bidding on. Back to you, Janelle, to discuss the bid documents.
So the bid documents are pretty standard in construction. Volume 1, terms and conditions. Make sure you review this and download this. This becomes your contract. Everything you need to bid, information for bidders, your bid form, performance and payment bonds, general conditions, general requirements, affirmative action forms. Volume 2, the general requirements, the minimum standards required. That's all identified. Become familiar with that. Volume 2 is the construction task catalog. Remember, it's updated every year in August. That's the preset construction tasks organized by CSI master format. The unit prices are calculated using labor, material, and equipment for in-place construction, customized by Gordian and RS Means specifically for DASNY. Here's a snippet of just one of the tasks in the book might look like. CSI master format, you can see the full description and look closely at that. It explains what's included, what's not included. The modifiers will explain quantity discounts for large quantities. For small quantities, there might be an ad. There might be something here, for example, for a radius curve. Every task includes demolition and an install price. Be sure to familiarize with each task. Read all of what's included, what's not. It'll refer you to sections that may not be included in that task. Thank you, Wayne. Next page. Volume 4 is the technical specifications. Again, quality of material and workmanship. Volume 4 is the prevailing wage schedule. Volume 5, pardon me. The current solicitations, everyone is required to provide a factor for normal working hours, other than normal working hours, and non-pre-priced work. The PLA regions, specifically New York, Region 1, will have a day shift Monday to Friday, second evening or third night shift Monday to Friday, day shift for Saturday and Sunday factors, second evening or third night shift Saturday or Sunday, and a holiday defined by the PLA. Those adjustment factors apply to all tasks in the construction task catalog. And remember, your factors are awarded based on acceptable, responsive, responsible bidder. Job order contracting is always a 5-step process. When DASNY has a client that has a project that they hope to put through the job order contracting program, they're counting on you to be responsive and available. When they call you for a joint scope meeting, it may very well be an emergency. When you get to the site, you can take measurements, take pictures, figure out logistics. Where should your dumpster go? What are the working hours? DASNY has a complete list to run through just to define the logistics for that scope. Next, once the scope is determined, DASNY will issue a request for proposal based on that detailed scope of work that you talked about on site. When you get back to your office, you will build your price proposal package. Again, Gordian will help you. Training is available through Gordian in your office, on the phone. We're here to help you. Your price proposal, once you build your price proposal and your schedule and your utilization plan for MWBE and SDVOB, your list of proposed subcontractors and suppliers, and any required submittals, insurance, any non-pre-priced backup is all included in your price proposal package. You transmit to the DASNY. There's a process to review that proposal. Make sure your proposal uses appropriate tasks and descriptions. That review process, they're counting on you to be responsive and accurate. The going back and forth is something that they're counting on these JOC contracts to be efficient and less time consuming than their other resources of going out to bid. Once that job order is approved, it becomes a lump sum job order or your construction contract to do the scope of work in the time frame and schedule approved. The adjustment factors, again, as Wayne stated, they're good for the life of the contract. DASNY's the only agency that I know of that updates their construction task catalog every year. Your factors are not updated, only the catalog. Liquidated damages may apply on a job order basis. Permits and fees are 100% reimbursable.
And let me just, piggyback on something that Janelle just said. The adjustment factor, and we'll get into this later, is basically a function of your business operation. So Janelle will go through a few examples of how you might go about calculating it, but it's each of you determining, by looking at, work completed, the way your business operates, what's your overhead and profit. The construction cast catalog is saying that in this calendar year, this is the cost of labor, material, and equipment. So arguably, the structure of your business operation is or should be fairly stable or consistent from year to year. But as we know, prices vary, and which is why DASNY made the decision a few years ago to make sure that we update our construction task catalogs every year.
And remember, there are 2 construction task catalogs, one for upstate and Western New York with pricing, labor, material, and equipment based on upstate pricing. And the second construction task catalog is specifically for downstate. So those prices, you need to become familiar with those and feel comfortable with that pricing. The contractor is not guaranteed to receive any minimum. They don't have to send you projects or a maximum. They don't need to make sure that you meet that term financial obligation. The incentive is for you to provide quality work at a competitive price and be responsive. Future job orders are tied to your performance, not just your work on the job site, but how quickly you respond and how appropriately you're using those tasks in the construction task catalog. They don't have to continue with this contract. If you're not responsive and problems arise, they have other means. This is one tool, and you need to make sure that this tool is the best for DASNY to get their work done quickly. There may be different site conditions. Those are, again, treated as an additional job order or a supplemental job order. Same 5-step process is what happens here. Make sure you contact DASNY. Something is found on a job site that wasn't planned on. Detailed scope of work, price proposal review, job order issued. It's all the same process every time. Retainage is typically 5% released at the end of each project, not at the end of your contract. There's no substantial completion in JOC, except for a larger, more complex projects. JOC projects are typically 100% complete or incomplete. One payment for projects typically within 45 days or $50,000 or less. Monthly payments are for other larger job orders.
And let me just say one thing about differing site conditions, or in general about additional work. Once we've gone through the process of, building your price proposal and agreeing to it and issuing the job order, which is in essence the construction contract for that project, DASNY has one of 2 ways of handling additional work. The traditional way in the job order contracting program is to issue what's called a supplemental job order, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's, additional work in relationship to the original job order, or we can use our change order process. And in the last year and a half or so, DASNY made the decision to handle most additional work through the change order process to have some consistency between, how we handle work that goes out to bid versus how we handle work that is through the job order contracting program or that's design bid build. However, and those contractors who are online now that currently have contracts with us, that in some instances, if there are long lead items in the scope of work, we might pull them out issue an original job order so you can place the order for the HVAC equipment or for the, the generators or whatever it is. And then the balance of the scope of work, which is not a change, it's just the rest of the scope of work that was not included in the original job order, we will still issue those as a supplemental job order, not a change order, because it is not a change in scope. Also, if there are tasks included in original job order and for whatever reason they are not required, we will still issue a supplemental to credit them out. It's kind of just a one-for-one swap. So just be mindful that there are, two ways that we can handle changes. That is outlined in the JOC general conditions, which are part of your bid document. So you might want to read through that section as well.
The most important part about understanding how to build your proposal is in the front end. It's called using the construction task catalogs. It's the first maybe 6 pages. You need to become familiar with that, memorize that. What is included and what is not included in your factor. So the unit prices, again, are for complete in-place construction, labor, material, and equipment. Do not add labor. There are the labor trade rates, the hourly rates are listed in the construction task catalog. However, those are used specifically with approval from DASNY prior to building your proposal for work not included in the CTC. And those unit prices include cost of delivering to the site, unloading, storing, and handling, delivery up to 2.5 stories. New work, the unit prices include for new work testing, calibration. There are tasks for those, but if you're providing new work, it's included in that task in your price proposal. All fasteners, bolts, anchors, adhesives, those are included in the tasks. Although there are specific tasks for all different bolts and anchors, they're included when you're building sheetrock or columns. If you put an allowance for waste, there's no waste in job order contracting. If you are putting 125 square feet of drywall or carpet, that's your task in your proposal. That's your quantity. Demolition prices include loading into the truck or dumpster. If an item is demolished as part of a different task, it will not be paid for separately. If the detailed scope of work requests that you remove a door, you don't also add the task to remove the hinges. Comes out with the door, right? The contractor, again, is paid for installed quantities only, no waste. There are assembly prices. Those tasks they take precedence over the component pricing. You can build, for example, a sidewalk using all the different parts and pieces. The assembly prices take precedence over all of that. Typically 14-foot high work is included with every task, except masonry, which is only 4 feet high. Over those heights, the contractor, of course, is paid for scaffolding or a lift, whatever's needed. Dumpsters are a separate item. Mobilization for the large, heavy equipment is a separate task. Paving equipment, cranes, there's mobilization and demobilize for those pieces of equipment. There's this minimum setup charge task for core drilling and saw cutting, for example. There's also a task in there for core drilling by the lineal foot. You'll see that's probably something like $6 a lineal foot. So the minimum setup charge would be the most appropriate for that. Minimum charges for small areas for pavement repairs. Again, there are modifiers for small and discounts for large, but there's also minimum setup just to get you to the site. Contractors paid separately for removing demolition material and waste from the site. There are exceptions to using those tasks. Allowances and reimbursable expenses. If DASNY wants you to put an allowance of $50,000 in your price proposal, you put the $50,000 in with your adjustment factor of 1.0. Reimbursable expenses are again reimbursed at cost. Your markup is 1.00. Tasks not included in the CTC are referred to as non-pre-priced, NPP. Contractor must present to DASNY 3 vendor quotes. There's a whole process, and those items that are not in the book must be approved by DASNY. You can't just put in a non-pre-priced line item. Gordian's here to help you find appropriate tasks in the book for most projects. Allowances are used at DASNY's sole discretion. DASNY determines the scope of a task, the appropriateness of a task, and the classification of a pre-priced or a non-pre-priced shall be final, binding, and conclusive by DASNY. The formula for calculating your price proposal is always the same. The unit price in the book times the quantity times your appropriate adjustment factor equals the total for that task. Your total job order amount is the culmination of all of those tasks. That's how a job order is issued as a lump sum. There are several ways to calculate your adjustment factor. Using your historical project data, sampling method to evaluate some samples, or creating a representative project. The most widely used is the historical project data. Select a project that you've completed. You know the scope. You already know your direct cost. Price it using the catalog. Use those prices. Add your overhead and profit. Calculate your adjustment factor. Next page. That sample project might have a detailed scope of work. Well, DASNY could give you a detailed scope of work, just like this. This is a perfect example. Doors and hardware. Replace 12 interior doors, hinges, and hardware. Doors to be 3x7, solid core, grade 2. Replace 2 push bars, exit devices, and door closers. Interior lighting. Replace all lay-in fixtures. On the first and second floor, 48 total. Replace 4 LED fixtures. Replace 2 industrial fixtures in the shop area. Plumbing. Replace 8 bathroom sinks, faucets, toilets, and the locations. Replace 4 water fountains. Replace the boiler. Demo existing and the piping. You could get a very detailed scope of work. You might get plans and specs. You may get just a generic scope. Roof fell, replace the damaged roof. Basement is flooded, emergency repair. Get out there, be responsive. Here's a snippet of what it might look like when you're building your proposal. You can see the tasks, you can see what they include, install, the quantities, demolition quantities, and there are user notes. You can put in your user notes. The more information you can provide for your project manager at DASNY reviewing the proposal, the more efficient your proposal is. Again, here's an example. These are the costs that you found in the CT. Doors and hardware, $11,387. For lighting, you have $19,715. Plumbing, $22,936. Replacing the boiler, you have $57,844. That's from using the catalog. You know from your quotes or estimates previously that the doors and hardware actually cost you $11,615. The lighting costs were actually $19,000. Plumbing, $22,524. That boiler replacement was $56,738. That gives you $109,970. Now comparing these two, Wayne. Remember, your overhead costs include joint scope meeting, reviewing that detailed scope of work with DASNY, the time building that price proposal. Full-time site supervision and management is included in your factor. safety, insurance, vehicles, home office support, and communications. All of that is included in your factor. Now putting together, you have the cost of quotes in your estimate. You had 109,970. Say, for example, you'd like to make 10% overhead to cover all those costs. Now you're at 129.67. For example, profit, you might want 5% profit on that. Add the 6,048. Now you're at $127,015. The book gives you 111,892. So take that cost that you'd like for this project divided by what the book gives you, and that's how you get your factor. 1.1351. Bid considerations. Remember, the minimum and maximum values are based on your quality of work and your responsiveness. The number of option periods, those are again based on your performance. Are you responsive? What are your price proposals like? How quickly do you get to the job order stage? That's important. Your performance on the job site, high quality, timely completion, cost savings proposals. Those adjustment factors are good for the life of the contract. You need to feel solid that those factors are good for could be up to 4 years. What about changes in price, labor, equipment, materials? Again, according to using the construction task catalog, those prices are good for a year. So that factor is good for 1 year. The construction task catalogs are updated annually in August of every year, but that factor is good. Those factors you're bidding, they're good for the up to 4 years. Low adjustment factors may lead to disputes. If you have to throw in unsupported tasks or exaggerate your quantities just to get to the profit you want to make on a job order, doesn't work. Delays in developing that job order, they can't issue a job order. Going back and forth with these proposals creates an adversarial relationship. It reduces the volume of work that DASNY's going to send your way. You may not get another option period. There's no change orders to prove your profit margin. See the general conditions. Annual updates are the catalog, not in your factor.
And let me just say something about the first point of low adjustment factors. As I mentioned earlier, what you will be bidding to DASNY is, the adjustment factor that covers your overhead and profit. So we are not giving you that factor. You are giving it to us. And in some instances with, current contractors, we'll hear that they're not making, enough money, or they're complaining that we are awarding work to them under a contract that has a low factor, and somehow that's our fault. Remember, we are asking you to tell us, what is your overhead, what profit you want, and the combination of the two, you are telling us what your factor is. So the exercise that Janelle just mentioned of doing some historical analysis, pay attention to that, because if we accept your bid, then we expect you to abide by it. And, if you go in low just to get your foot in the door, and I'm sure some folks will do, make sure you could live with that number, because we're going to hold you to it. And before we get to the MWBE, this is one section that I'm going to pause. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then see what questions that we may have at this juncture to address. So, Bobby, Sheldon, what questions do we have so far?
Okay. Hello, my name is Lorena. I work for the Best Shades MWBE and WBE window treatment provider. We would like to know if there is an opportunity listed for us, and who can we send our CS? Is there any particular email to send it to?
Well, I would say you should look at the contracts that are being awarded. We do have a facade repair and restoration contract in New York City that may be appropriate, but I would say look at the contracts that are being awarded, and you have the ability on DASNY's website to list yourself as an interested sub or supplier, but also after this meeting is over, we will, in addition to posting a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, we will also post a list of the participants. And so you would have the ability to see who's there and reach out to them.
When can we get a
Wayne.
link? I'm sorry.
Hold on for a second, Sheldon. Wayne, I would also direct this business to procurement. DASNY procurement in its efforts to satisfy our clients also utilizes actually term contracts for shades and window coverings, but on an individual basis, they might also look for project specific. So look at our procurement, as Wayne directed you on our website. There is items for commodities and services, and that's where you would look for upcoming opportunities to provide shading, blinds, other window treatment type things.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, everything that DASNY procures is posted to our website. So while you are logged in for this JOC pre-bid meeting, there may very well be other opportunities unrelated to this JOC pre-bid or the JOC contracts that will be appropriate for you.
When can we get a link for the catalog?
It's posted to the website now. If you go to the ad, go to the tab that says attachments, all of the attachments are there.
I need training. Where do I sign up? Do I have to win a job before getting trained?
Absolutely. I mean, as I mentioned, when we award the contract, that is when training is available. We do not train, folks generically. We provide training to the firms that are awarded contracts.
How do you project profit with NYS prevailing wage for owners?
Well, we do not project profit. The question is, how do you project profit in your business operations currently? What's your overhead? What's your profit? I mean, you're telling us. So if I ran a construction firm and Janelle ran a construction firm, our overhead and profit, will no doubt be very different. So her adjustment factor, her expectations, her calculations will be different from mine. So we don't tell you how to project it, you're telling us.
Please clarify that non-union contractors can use their own employees and we do not have to use union.
Well, they're mixing a couple of things. I mean, under the PLA, and which is only pertinent to New York City's 5 boroughs, any contractor, whether they are union or non-union, can participate. However, everyone must sign a letter of assent indicating that you're going to agree to and abide by the terms and conditions of DASNY's PLA. In the PLA, there are staffing requirements. So if you are a non-union, if you go to the staffing section, it will tell you how many people from your crew you can use and how many people from the union hall you have to use. If you are a New York State certified MWBE, the staffing pattern differs. So I would refer you to the PLA, and Mike Clay may want to add some more to the issue of staffing as well.
So at the end of the day, union and non-union contractors can bid on this work. Okay, you do not have to be union. If you decide to submit a bid as a prime or a sub, okay, that is, you participate on a particular project for DASNY on that particular project. You're not signing up to become union on every piece of work that you do. So if there's a project across the street from a JOC contract that you are the apparent low bidder as a prime or a sub on, then you abide by the rules and conditions of that PLA on that JOC contract. The project across the street, non-union, that's what you do. You're a non-union contractor. There are what's called bring along or drag along clauses in the PLA that favors MWBEs. That is on our website. It is this PLA's, and I'll talk a little bit about it, is the more progressive PLA in the state of New York, especially New York City. Okay, so please take a look at the PLA, the bring along clause, and some of the other things I'll cover very briefly, but you can participate if you're non-union, either as a prime or a sub.
And let me just reiterate, because this happened about a year ago. We had an electrical contractor in Buffalo who was interested in the program, but was uncomfortable with the PLA. And let me just say it again, DASNY's PLA is for New York City only. So if you're in Long Island, if you're in Westchester, if you're in Niagara Falls, if you're in Buffalo, the PLA does not apply. And if you look at the ad, there's a column that says PLA, non-PLA. So the Region 1 contracts all say PLA, and everything else says non-PLA. So the union, everything is prevailing wage, but union, non-union, DASNY does not prohibit or favor one way or the other in terms of your ability to participate.
How do we capture material prices that are continuously changing? How do we compare what you capture versus what it actually costs?
Well, as we mentioned, the Gordian Group update the pricing, labor, material, equipment on a yearly basis. Having said that, we are aware that the pandemic and supply chain issues have caused quite a bit of volatility in the market. So Janelle mentioned using the non-pre-priced approach. So if, for example, the price that's included for copper piping or whatever has spiked, you would get 3 prices from suppliers or whomever to show that this is what is happening in the market, and we could then proceed with pricing it using the non-pre-price method as opposed to the construction task catalog. But also, we will ask Gordian to check to see if, in fact, the information that you're providing us is borne out by, what they and others are seeing in the market. But, we're not oblivious to the fact that, there have been and continue to be, fluctuations in price, and we have ways of dealing with that.
Please talk a little more about the bid security requirements for each project.
Well, it's not for the project, it's for the contract. And I believe in the ad, it indicates that the bid bond is $25,000 for any of the contracts. And of course, if you don't get it, it's returned.
How do we capture logistics for removal? For example, as a dumpster by the building or a dumpster that needs to be placed far away?
Yeah, I think that question is too project specific. Remember, these are term contracts. So we're saying we're going to issue a contract for $1 million or $2 million or $5 million for GC or plumbing or whatever. When we have a specific project, that is when, as Janelle explained, there will be what's called a joint scope meeting. There's going to be a site meeting. And forget the terminology. We're going to give you a set of plans and specs or a scope of work. You're going to have a meeting on site. We're going to walk the site. We're going to look at the conditions. We're going to, explore how and where stuff has to be done. Is it a college where you can only do the work after hours? Is it a tight site and you have no place to store? Is it a campus where you have plenty of air? All of that will be discussed at the site, and then you'll put your price together based upon the request for proposal that is given to you by the JOC PM. So separate the projects that at this juncture we don't know what they are from the contract. It's a demand contract, and, your electrical contractor, we're saying in the next 12 months, we, are contracting for up to $1 million worth of electrical work. We don't know what it is or where it is other than it's in New York City or it's in Region 5. And once projects come our way, that's when we get into the detail. Right now, we don't have that detail.
Does DASNY provide OCIP?
Short
And that
answer is no. Owner's Control Insurance Program. DASNY does not have the ability to offer that. That's why you're required to carry your own insurance, as Wayne has indicated previously.
How would my company be contracted once a JOC opportunity becomes available?
Well, if we award a contract to you and we have a project we need you to do, one of our JOC project managers will send you notice through our, online system that XYZ project has been assigned to you. There may be documents that they can email to you. I mean, we have job order contracting project managers who coordinate, with our contractors to, advise them of the projects that we need them to work on and to schedule, the job meetings. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a construction project. So there's nothing different about that. We would contact you, say we've got a site meeting at Hunter College next Tuesday at 10 a.m. to look at XYZ.
How do we calculate profit using prevailing wage?
That's a question for you to tell us. You're running a business. How do you currently calculate your overhead and profit? We are not telling you, you are telling us.
If you have not gotten bonded in the past, will you be precluded from submitting a bid?
As I said, in order to be a prime contractor under the JOC program, you must be bondable. Mike Clay will talk later on about a program that we have, but remember, bonding is a function of your financial capacity. So if you have the financial capacity to be bonded and you have not been bonded, that's one thing. If you don't have the financial capacity to secure a bond, then, you would not meet the, the minimum qualifications of being bondable.
Let me just interject for a second, Wayne. DASNY has a program that I will be talking about, hopefully in the next 5 to 10 minutes, which will explain how DASNY is helping to deal with this issue. That is bonding as well as project-specific capital access. And that is for firms who do not have bonding right now at 10:58 a.m. and for firms who have been bonded in the past and are looking to increase their bonding in order to bid on a DASNY project. I'll talk more about it in a second.
Hey, hi Wayne, it's Robin. Can I add something to the calculating the adjustment factor?
Absolutely.
Okay, so because I heard the question was asked. So for all contracts,
and just for everyone's reference, this is Robin Singh, who is also with the Gordian Group.
good morning, everyone. So to clarify this whole adjustment factor, the way what Janelle mentioned, we want everyone to take a bunch of projects, take projects you already completed in the past, price that out of the construction task catalog. Because as you're aware, the construction task catalog prices are fixed. There's no fluctuation with the pricing. Price that out of the catalog, get your whole number of what that job is. Now, you as a contractor, you have completed those projects. So you know where your profit margin is on that project. You know how much something costs with you on that project. So if you take that historic project, you price it out of the catalog. Let's say that project for you on historically came in at 100,000. You price it out of the catalog, it came in at 95,000. So you have to now put in I'm looking as a contractor, as Wayne indicated, that I'm only looking for 5% profit with a 10% overhead, or I'm looking for a 30% profit with a 10% overhead. It's what you're looking for. So once you multiply that by having the difference, that's how you develop your adjustment factor. So take in consideration, you price it out historical projects. Our recommendation is use more than one project because every project you have will have a different outcome. And then price it out of a new project. Take a project of what it would be at current day, how much something will cost you as of today. Then you take the same thing where you get those quotes and how much that costs, price it back out of the catalog, and that's how you'll be able to develop the adjustment factor. And then you will be able to figure out what your profit's going to be, or what you want, or what you expect to be out of it, versus what your overhead costs of what cost is it at the today. And that's how you'll be able to divide your adjustment factor.
Okay.
Hope that clarifies.
If a contractor comes in low to get their foot in the door, lives with the number for that contract, DASNY is pleased with their work, and then this contractor bids on a separate contract with numbers that better reflect their desired profit, is there legacy data that DASNY uses to compare to the contractor's previous bids?
No. Next.
Is
That was short and
pre-walkthrough
sweet.
is a pre-walkthrough mandatory for all projects?
Yeah, I mean, how else do you price your projects? I mean, I would be, if you're a contractor, even if I send you a set of plans and specs, I would be real reluctant to assume that that set of plans and specs actually captured all of the site conditions and nuances. So I want to make sure I see the site before I say this is my price and I'm going to live with it.
What is facade restoration insurance requirements?
If you're a contractor that does that kind of work, you would know, or your carrier would know what those insurance requirements are.
How would we know when a JOC bid is open, and will we be emailed in regards to it?
I would refer you to the ad.
Will there be multiple JOC contractors for the same work called in, or just one?
One award per contract.
Does this program include elevators?
No.
Is PLA sub-tier to be PLA or tier 2, and can they use prevailing wages?
I have no idea what that question means.
Everybody pays prevailing wages regardless of tier. First tier, second tier, and also if it is a PLA eligible project, then all tiers must participate in the PLA. And as Wayne mentioned previously, a letter of assent must be signed by each contractor. And all you're doing again is saying you're going to abide by the rules and regulations of the PLA. That's work time, that's holidays, that's all of those kinds of things are the work rules.
Is there a minimum bondable amount?
I would once again refer you back to the ad and back to the website. The bonding is a function of the amount of the contract that you are bidding for.
If there are a few items that are undervalued by the price catalog, how do we address this in our price factor as other items are priced right and my standard factor will be okay?
Well, if once again, if you can document that there's a pricing differential, you would do that. You would document the pricing differential. You would provide that information to the JOC PM, and that would be reviewed with the JOC PM, our construction PMs, and Gordian.
May I jump in here for a moment, please?
Absolutely.
So everyone's always concerned about the prices in the book may not be accurate, right? So prices fluctuate. We all know that. LED lighting, for example, for the entire year, high priced, right? Then it dropped. Copper pipe, everything fluctuates. You may lose money on a JOC project, You may make more money than you had planned. That's construction. That's the way it is, right? We're not going to go back and say the prices in the book were higher than what we suspect, so we want money back. We won't do that. And the prices in the book are set. That's your contract.
Does this program include contracting for the erection of scaffolding and construction access?
Yeah, I would refer everyone, who's asking about does the program and does the contract include, and also Bobby Sheldon, in terms of the questions, I would refer everyone to take a look at what the bid documents say is included. We have 12 contracts that are out to bid, and they are posted to the website, and it includes what we're looking for each of them. Let's take two more questions and get back to the presentation because we have time once again at the end of the presentation for more questions. So what are the next two?
Large contractors have a better price offer versus small contractors. Is that factored in the pricing?
The CTC is the same for everyone. You, as the bidder, are telling us what your pricing is. So, large contractors, may have an advantage, or large contractors may carry more overhead than smaller contractors and might be less competitive. It's hard to say.
Okay. Are lab tests included in bids, or does DASNY pay for that?
It depends on the project. When you say lab test, not every project requires lab tests. So it would depend on what project we're doing. And, with that, we are joined by Michael Clay, who's going to walk us through the MWBE requirements. Sorry about that. I should not have started from the beginning, but we're there. So, Mike.
Thank you, Wayne. Good morning, everyone. MWBE participation is a necessary requirement in doing business with DASNY on any kind of contract. And so what you have here is indicating what the rules of engagement are. We follow Executive Law Article 15A, which is mandates MWBE participation, and we follow Article 17B for SDVOB, Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Businesses. Each contractor is required to maximize utilization. Now, as Wayne has said, and Janelle on several occasions, this is a term contract. The work authorizations are issued to you, and then you are required to maximize both MWBE and SDVOB participation on each work authorization. If you happen to be a prime and you are certified as an MWBE or an SDVOB, you are still required to meet the goals. However, let's take it step by step. If you are a certified MBE contractor, then you automatically meet the MBE goal, but you do not meet the WBE goal. You can only meet one or the other. If you are a WBE prime contractor, you meet the WBE goal, but you must utilize firms that are certified on the MBE side. And if you are an SDVOB firm and you are the apparent low bidder, then you need to meet the M and WBE goals because you obviously meet the SDVOB goal. In other words, you cannot meet all the goals simply because you are New York State certified as an MBE, WBE, or SDVOB. We also, I think we work with you, my division, to assist you with locating MWBEs or SDVOBs for specific trades. So you do have assistance, but communications is critical by you as the prime contractor if you are asking for assistance. So communicating with my team about your needs or problems or concerns. Next slide, Wayne. As I pretty much indicated, your M&WBE and SDVOB compliance is evaluated over the term of a job contract. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, that means if you get 5 work authorizations and you know what, I start out like gangbusters on number 1 and number 2 work authorizations, I'm doing great, but on work authorization number 3, it's a specialty, or I was unable to get any MWBEs or SDVOBs, then you need to provide an explanation as to what happened, and communicating to our staff in terms of what happened on these work authorizations. We try to implore you to maximize utilization of MWs and STVOBs on each work authorization, because there's no guarantee, as you've heard from both Wayne and Janelle, that there's a certain amount of work authorizations you are going to receive. Okay, so in my example of you've gotten 5 work authorizations, there's no guarantee you're going to get number 6. So those first 5, I would maximize the M&WBE and STVOB participation on each of those first 5 work authorizations and do the very best that you can. If there are issues, again, communications is required so that we know exactly what's going on. When you submit a bid, we're going to, and you are the apparent low bidder, we're going to ask you to identify what your subs and suppliers potentially might be, MWBEs and STVOBs. The purpose of that is to get you thinking about what firms you could utilize. So we're not wasting time. Once you are awarded a work authorization and you're preparing your proposal, and now you're trying to struggle to find M&WBE subs and suppliers. You should be thinking about MWBE subs and suppliers all along so that you can participate. And what are you thinking about? You're thinking about firms that you've worked with in the past, firms that can supply materials and equipment, firms that can help you supplement your own workforce in terms of executing on the work authorization. You can, as I said previously, request assistance from DASNY for referrals of MWBEs and STVOBs, and you can subcontract substantially all of the work, either all of the work or substantially most of the work required on a job order to qualified MWBEs or STVOBs to increase your participation. So again, just make sure that they're qualified to perform the work, because at the end of the day, you are an important partner to DASNY in executing the work on behalf of our clients. One thing Wayne didn't tell you, DASNY does not receive any funds from the state of New York to operate. So no client has to use DASNY. Hence, that's where your work is coming from, potentially as a prime contractor on the JOCs work. So your participation, either as the prime and the sub, MWBE, STV or not, is critical. Next slide, Wayne. This is very self-explanatory. This was in the bid documents. It just tells you what the M&WBE goals are, 18%, 12%. The workforce, again, that's not 45% of your workforce has to be MWBEs or minorities and females. It's talking about the percentage of hours. So if you work 100 hours in a given month on a particular work authorization, if it takes you that long, then we're asking that you try to maximize minority and females working on the project. 45%, it's a percentage of hours, not saying that your workforce has to be 45%. I just want to make sure I underscore that. I know I've said it twice. I'm going to say it 3 times. For this number does not reflect that your entire workforce has to be 45% has to be minority and female group members. The STVOB goal is there, it's 6%. And again, we're going to ask you to maximize the M&WBE and STVOB participation, as well as the workforce on every single work authorization. And as you can see, it's defined by the description of the work for the region. Sometimes maybe in abatement, you may not be able to get 18 and 12 because you are self-performing the work. So you let us know that. You maximize what you can in terms of doing the work for abatement. If you are the abatement contractor, so maybe you can buy materials and equipment because you are doing all the abatement. That's fine. We just ask that you maximize it to the best of your ability. Next slide, Wayne. Again, now we go to the rest of the state. You saw the previous slide was regions 1. This is now regions 3 and 4 for electrical, HVAC, and general construction with 9, 10, and 8 regions. Again, the same thing, 18 and 12. Again, the reason you see 15 and 10 is 15% is for region 3, 10% is for region 4. The rest of it is 10%. Again, the same thing, percentage of hours worked for the total workforce, and the SDVOB goal remains the same of 6%. Next slide, Wayne. Okay, we ask all contractors since 2014 to utilize the New York State contract system to report payments. So that means that when DASNY pays you as a prime contractor, you go into the New York State contract system, and out of the payment you receive from DASNY, you indicate who you are paying, all subs or suppliers, with particular emphasis to MWBEs and SDVOBs. This is on every single contract in the state of New York for state entities. So this isn't DASNY's system. This is the state system. So we would work with you to help you to make sure that you go in on each payment that you receive from DASNY and you indicate who you are paying from the check you receive from DASNY for MBEs, WBEs, and SDVOBs. And that is an audit. Just so you know, when you go in and say, I'm going to utilize Janelle and Wayne on a particular project, and I've paid them $10,000 each, an email goes to Wayne and Janelle, respectively, asking 3 questions. Did you receive payment from Michael Clay Construction? And what was the amount? Was it a different? And it says what the amount you allegedly paid them. Is it the exact same amount? Is it a different amount? Or have you not been paid at all? That is all done electronically. And unfortunately, if you've not paid anybody and you've told us you've paid someone, someone will be following up with you to ask you what is going on. We take this extremely seriously. So please, if you've done business with DASNY before or other state entities, the New York State contract system is not anything new. Wayne? Next slide. Again, these are just some simple documents that we may ask. So again, if you tell us you're using Wayne and Janelle as a subcontractor, then DASNY may ask you for executed subagreements, which you should have. If you are using Janelle and Wayne as a supplier, we will ask you for purchase orders or letters of intent for each one of the MWBEs and SDVOBs that you have indicated to us that you're utilizing on this particular work authorization. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we don't like subterfuge, okay? So therefore, if you tell us something, we're going to hold you accountable to provide information that you did, in fact, utilize these firms. The 2 individual staff persons that you see for upstate, Ms. Lassie handles all of the upstate region, and Kimberly Smith handles the Western New York, and Ms. Sabrina Standback Weeks handles all of Region 1. So those would be your contact persons if you need assistance in terms of any of this, getting a plan reviewed, problems with work being performed, non-responsive MWBEs, payment issues, any of that. Those are your initial contact people that you would reach out to. Wayne, next slide. Again, you can find SDVOBs. This is a link at OGS, New York State Office of General Services, that manages the SDVOB program. That's where you would find SDVOBs. And of course, you would use the New York State contract system. There's a directory within that that carries all the certified MWBE firms in the state of New York by trade. There's approximately almost 9,000 New York State MWBE firms certified in contracting, supplies, professional services, commodities and services, insurance, risk management, legal. They are dispersed geographically. So please use both of these links to be able to find MWBEs or SDVOBs. Next slide, Wayne. Okay, this is the what if slide. What if you don't meet your goals and you do not stay in contact with your analyst? So we ask you again, if not by work authorization. But if you're struggling, let's go back to my example of 5 work authorizations, and let's suppose you have gotten 0 participation on 5 work authorizations, but you've not communicated to Ms. Stanback Weeks, Ms. Lassie, or Ms. Smith. Then we're going to, kind of engage you to find out what's going on. And if you're non-responsive, you could be in a position of not receiving work authorization number 6. So as I indicated to you, please communicate if you have any problems. What we ask you to do is on an individual work authorization, if you're not able to attain the 18, 12, and 6 respectively, then communicate to your analyst, the 3 young ladies I've just mentioned, so that they can understand what's going on. Because they're going to ask you, well, what happened, Mr. or Miss Contractor? Why aren't you meeting your goals? Or why didn't you meet your goals on this particular work authorization? The waiver request need to be done at the end of the contract, not on each work authorization. So therefore, you need to accumulate documentation and information on a work order by work order basis if you're not able to meet the MWBE or the SDVOB goal. Instead of waiting till after receiving 15 work authorizations, you've only gotten 6 of them, you've got MWBE participation. The other ones don't. You obviously, in most cases, aren't meeting the 18, 12, and 6. And now you're coming to us saying at the end of the first year, can we get a waiver? Because Mr. Benjamin and his team is going to ask us, how are you doing in achieving your MWBE participation? And that could affect your ability of getting a renewal for year 2, year 3, or year 4. So we take this very seriously. Also, in rare cases, if you completely blow us off, we think it's a responsibility issue, which could prevent you from bidding on other DASNY projects. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I've said, 3rd time, we take this extremely seriously. DASNY does very well in the utilization of MWBEs and SDVOBs. So we expect you to please make sure that you are making a good faith effort. If you are, then communicate what those efforts are. And again, we have the ability, based on your contracts, for non-compliance. That's not, oops, I used somebody and they left. Oops, that's not, I sent out proposals, nobody responded. This is if you deliberately fail to meet the MWBE goals and do not make a good faith effort, we have the ability to assess damages, not on a work order by work order basis, but at the end of a contract year, if that is the case. So please, we don't want to go there. What we want to do is help you. We're here to assist you. We don't get anything out of assessing fines. We get MWB participation is the name of the game here. So that's what we're looking for you to do. All these other bullet points refers to the specific articles where good faith efforts are referred to, what you need to do. All of that's in these slides. I'm not going to reiterate that because I've kind of just paraphrased it. Please make your efforts to maximize MWs and SDVOBs. Wayne, next slide. Now, the fun stuff. Several of you have asked questions about bonding. Several of you have asked questions about project-specific financing, or how do I get a bond, or what do I do if I'm not bonded? Ladies and gentlemen, here's your answer. DASNY's Capital Management Services Program. This is a program that I started about a little less, maybe a little more of a year ago. Here's what it does. It provides capital access, affordable capital on a project-specific basis. You don't get a line of credit. You don't get a check. You have the ability that if you are a low bidder on a JOCs work authorization and you on a JOCs contract, and you need to get funding for each work authorization on a project by project specific basis, capital access can be provided. Bonding, surety bonding can be provided. Okay, so you would get pre-qualified. Okay, before you submit a bid to DASNY, you would get a bid bond. For those of you who asked about, well, what's the bid bond? We don't want you doing a bid bond. We don't want you sending in a check for $25,000, $15,000, $30,000. No, keep your money. What we want you to do is come to DASNY, go to www.dasny.org. On the bottom of the page, it says DASNY's Capital Management Program. Click on that link, and that connects you to our consultant, the K-Mite Group, who is an MBE licensed insurance broker in 48 states. This is our consultant who is assisting us. So what's the program? You go and you fill out an application. You identify, I want to bid on the general construction JOCs contract in Region 4 or Region 5. Mr. K-Mite would then, him and his team would evaluate you. You'll be asked to submit some documentation and information through a secure portal. That information is evaluated. Guess who we have involved with our bonding program? Travelers Insurance, the #1 issuer of surety bonding in the world. That's who we have, ladies and gentlemen, among other surety firms. We also have an arrangement with LIS, Local Initiative Support Corporation, out of New York City. They have committed $10 million for project-specific capital access. So you bid on this project, Mr. K-Mite provides a bid bond, you submit it to DASNY. DASNY opens the bids. You are the apparent low bidder. When you get ready to get, and we award the contract, when you get ready to get work authorization #1 for $75,000, we evaluate 30% of your $75,000 work authorization is project-specific funding for you. That's to help you pay your employees from day one, subs, suppliers, equipment from day one. Mr. K-Mite and his team uses funds control to help control the funds so we know where the money is going to, which is project-specific. So you can't get $20,000 and go pay SBS, or go use $20,000 on an MTA change order, or the school construction authority, or the port authority, or some private developer. Doesn't work like that. It's only for DASNY specific work. Mr. K-Mite acts as, and his team acts as your CFO for that $75,000 work authorization. They give you financial reports weekly. All your subs and suppliers. If there is a PLA on that particular project, they ensure your benefit payments are paid so you do not have any issues. Okay? This is unheard of, ladies and gentlemen. There is no other agency, let me repeat, there is no other agency, state, city, or federal, who has this program in the country, never mind New York State. Okay? This was decided to help solve the issue of bonding capital access for our minority, women, and service-disabled businesses. Also, we have access to suppliers. We've built in some suppliers because, again, these days, you know, again, not so much for this program because obviously the CTC is providing you information on pricing for materials and equipment, but we have an electrical supplier. We have a plumbing supplier. We have a general construction supplier located in the New York metropolitan area that would be willing to work with you to give you pricing that would be competitive by virtue of you being in this program, because guess what? They don't have to chase you to get paid, ladies and gentlemen. Because Mr. K-Mite and his team are utilizing funds control to ensure that every sub and supplier is paid. No liens, because they're getting partial lien waivers on every payment. That's the reason Traveler says, you know what, I'm willing to underwrite contractor A or contractor B, even if they've never received surety bonding in the past. And guess what? For those of you who say, well, you know, Mr. Clay, that all sounds great, but you know what? My credit score, I've heard about this bonding stuff. My credit score is not 850, 800. Don't worry about it. Okay? Long as there's no lawsuits, long as there's no active liens, judgments, you and you and you can get bonding and capital access for DASNY projects, and not just the job order contracting program, but any DASNY project. This only works on DASNY construction, not commodities, not services, not professional services, just construction projects. Also, Mr. Kmart, as I said, acts as your CFO for that particular project, not all your work, just for the ones that you're receiving funding for. They provide strengthening your back office operations and financial management. You get reports weekly, so you know exactly if you are on point to make a profit or lose money. And God forbid, if you're losing money on a particular project, they're pointing that out so you can make the change that you need to make to maximize your profits and overhead on these projects. Okay. There ain't anybody in the country, folks, doing this. Okay. So please, if you have interest, not only for the job order contracting program, which all of you are on here for, also if you want to bid other DASNY work, again, you need to have experience. So if you just come out of the chute and now you want to contact DASNY, these aren't for startups. This program is not for startups. It's for businesses that have previous experience in general construction, electrical, plumbing, heating, whatever the trade happens to be that DASNY bids. This would be how we would work. This program has been working since October, and I'm actually in the process of having a conversation on a DASNY project where there's about $8 million in MWBE subs and or suppliers that are going to participate in this program because the prime contractor can't pay them every 2 weeks. Okay, so this helps to make sure that you can stand on your own 2 feet and get what you need to get. So please, where do I find out about this? www.dasny.org. That's where you find out about the program. Click on the front, on the web page, the very bottom of the web page is how you get to the landing page for this program. There are videos on the program, okay, for MWBEs, about 20, 25-minute video for MWBEs, SDVOBs, also for prime contractors, explaining this program so that you can get a better understanding. And of course, there's contact information for Mr. Kmite and his team, email, phone number, so that you can complete. But remember, you must identify a project first that you would like to bid on. And when you go through the portal, it'll ask you for that information. And then Mr. Kmite and his team will be in contact with you. And you should do this probably 20 to 25 days in advance of the DASNY project that you are looking to bid on. In other words, if the project is bidding next Wednesday on the 25th, don't go into the portal asking, can I get pre-qualified to bid on the 25th? Ladies and gentlemen, surety bonding is more invasive than a mortgage. This isn't quick. This is dependent upon you providing the financial information that you need to provide, that Mr. Kmite needs to take and have the conversation with his bonding company to make us aware to get you pre-qualified, okay? So again, dasny.org. Next slide, Mr. Benjamin. This is contact, well, it's information upon who you can reach out to. My information is on dasny.org, as well as Mr. Benjamin and the rest of us. And the 2 assistant directors for upstate and downstate are on there. But ladies and gentlemen, please, if you get nothing out of this program, this is an opportunity for you to be able to bid on DASNY projects as a prime contractor. Take advantage of it, please. Nobody else is offering this. Mr. Benjamin.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. So just to wrap, and then we'll get back to Q&A. Janelle, would you review with us the sort of the key points that contractors should take away?
Make sure you understand how to price your projects using the construction task catalog. Again, using the construction task catalog, those first 6 pages, memorize that, know it by heart. Know the value the construction task catalog provides. Evaluate the risk of any unrealistic low bid. JOC is a long-term relationship. You need to consider that. The volume is driven by contractor performance, putting in the right staff in place, good price proposals, efficient use of those tasks, high quality construction, timely completion, meeting all of DASNY's expectations, problem solving. Do not create problems. Thank you, Wayne. Review those documents. Bidders can review everything on DASNY's website. You can see the catalog. It's right there in the documents. You can review the pricing. You can't print them, but you can review all those tasks. Wayne?
Yes, I believe you can download the documents, but you cannot print them.
Print them.
What you see right now are the documents that are attached to the ad. After this meeting, there will be additional attachments. As I said before, there will be a copy of this PowerPoint presentation. The ad will be updated, so there's a link to the recording of this meeting. So if someone missed the pre-bid meeting, or if they want to review it again, they can, replay that. And also there will be a list of attendees that will be posted. If you check the schedule in the ad, there is a deadline for you to submit questions subsequent to the completion of this pre-bid meeting. Once we get those questions and respond to them, those responses will also be posted in the attachments section. So during this meeting, it's okay for you to ask us, any of us who are panelists, questions. After this pre-bid meeting is over, please pay attention to the contact person or persons identified in the ad. Only submit your questions to the designated contact people. Do not email me directly because I'm not identified as the contact person. Don't reach out to Mike. Don't reach out to Janelle. If you're reaching out to Mike about an OPG related issue, not about the JOC solicitation per se, that's fine. But questions pertaining to the JOC solicitation, please direct them to the contact person or persons identified in the ad. Speaking of which, so that would be, Chris Ensign, who is our senior project manager, or just to constructioncontracts@dasny.org. The bid opening, I believe, is scheduled for November 15th. That information is in the ad. Typically within 48 hours of the bid opening, the results will get posted once again to the DASNY website. It's a very transparent process. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go back, Bobby and Sheldon, to more Q&A.
Okay. With regards to the MWBE requirements, if the prime contractor, who is a plumber, is not utilizing a subcontractor, will DASNY request a waiver to be filed along with their bid? Can vendors for materials be utilized for materials and satisfy the MWBE requirements?
Short answer is yes. You
Well,
can
well,
use subs and suppliers as long as they're New York State certified as MWBEs or SDVOBs.
But go
And you
back to
don't
the
need
beginning
to
of that question, because it was a two-part question.
two-part
So
question.
Mike is responding to the second part, which is a yes. But what was the first part?
With regards to the MWBE requirements, if the prime contractor, who is a plumber, is not utilizing a subcontractor, will DASNY request a waiver to be filed along with their bid?
Well,
No.
no. And as Mike said, two things. The waivers are not done on a per project basis. It's done on the contract or contract term basis. But once again, if we award a project to you and you are a non-MWBE plumber, you have, as Mike pointed out, opportunities to use suppliers to help make that goal. So before you jump automatically to a waiver, explore the other opportunities that are presented by the project scope to include MWBE and SDVOB participation.
Okay. SDVOB is hired by the prime to meet the goals, signs the contract for a specific amount, but the GC chooses to not utilize that SDVOB for the work they were contracted to perform. To whom does the SDVOB bring grievances to? OGS, DASNY, or the Prime?
Bring it to DASNY if it's a DASNY project. I listed 3 names: Kimberly Smith, Western New York; Wendy Lassie, Upstate; and Sabrina Standback Weeks for the New York City or Region 1 contracts. If that occurs, then contact either one of those 3 ladies to make them aware of the circumstances and the situation that occurred. We'll investigate.
Can you practice with the CTC program before bidding on future contracts?
Well, you can certainly review it, and that's the reason why it's available as a bid document. So you should familiarize yourself with the CTC. You should play with, take some projects that you've completed, as both Janelle and Robin said, take some projects that you've completed and take that scope of work and price it in the CTC to see how the pricing differs, and that will inform how you calculate your adjustment factor. So by all means, do familiarize yourself with the pricing in there.
What are the requirements to work in Region 8, 9, or 10 if a contractor is licensed in NYC? Can we work in other NYS with what we already have?
Well, that would be, you would need to tell us where you are qualified or licensed to do work. In many cases, if you're doing, MEP trades, there are sort of local licensing requirements. So if you're a licensed plumber or a licensed electrician in New York City, are you also licensed to do work in Buffalo? You would have to tell us.
Okay, I have one other question here. I'm going to take a stab at it. What are the stats on the new program? Is there an upward assessment? It has been a year now. What are the contractors' assessment from the K-Mite group?
Mike, you're muted.
Yeah, let me say this, ladies and gentlemen. It is a program that works. Okay, I understand you want to hear stats and statistics. I don't have those available. I just told you right now I'm having a conversation with a prime contractor who's looking to have several of their subs participate in the program because the prime contractor is being asked to pay subs every 2 weeks or what have you. And that's sometimes the primes or CMs find that not acceptable because they're putting out money before they get paid. So what I'm saying to you is if you have interest, if you don't have bonding, then check out the program, okay? Because if you don't have bonding and you don't have project-specific capital access, what do you have to lose? But some time, okay? So the program's out there. It isn't out there for public relations purposes. It's out there to help minority, women, and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, subcontractors, okay? So if you don't have bonding or you have very little capital access, sorry, from my perspective, I don't see a reason why you wouldn't check us out. It's the best I can tell you.
Okay, I do not have any other questions.
Okay. Well, if there are no further questions, we've actually ended a bit early. I want to thank everyone for participating. I just want to point out once again, please pay close attention to the information that is included in the ad and to any subsequent information that gets posted. There will be additional information posted. As I said, there will be a copy of this PowerPoint presentation. There'll be an attendees list. And once we get the questions and answers formulated, they will be posted. If there are any addendum to the ad, also, they will get posted to the website. So please, pay attention to that. Also, be mindful of the bid due date. If we say bids are due on a certain date at 2 o'clock, it means they're due at 2 o'clock and we'll be opening them. If you submit your bid or you want to submit your bid at 2:30 or a day later, it's too late. If you have questions, please make sure you get your questions to us by the deadline for submitting those questions so that we can respond to them. And when we respond to them, we will share the questions and the answers with everyone, because if you have that question, no doubt someone else will as well. Any closing remarks from you, Janelle, or from you, Michael?
No, I'm all set. Thank you, everyone.
No, I'm all set. Just please, this is a tremendous opportunity. The job order contracting program you can utilize as part of your quadre of work. There's hard dollar bids, there's jock work, there's private work, there is other, work that you have. Make this a part of your basket load of work. And I think you'll be prepared for what's coming. They keep talking recession and this and that. Well, this is one of the ways that you deal with. Also, the job order contracting keeps your employees working, because at the end of the day, you're as good as your employees. And if those employees are active working on job order contracts, as well as hard dollar bids, as well as federal work, as well as City of New York or municipal work, then I think you're in a pretty good position as a small business to kind of be able to continue to work and grow and build your business, no matter what the economic forecast happens to be. So please, thank you for coming, and go to DASNY.org to learn more about the capital management program.
Right. And speaking of the capital management program, I see someone just, I think, put in chat that they need help or financial assistance with insurance. As Mike said, please, refer to the link, see what's available to you through the capital management program. The bid due date is November 15th. So you have, not quite a month, but almost a month, between now and then. So I would hop on that right away. And with that, I thank everyone. Have a good day. Look forward to your participation and look forward to your competitive bids. Take care all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.